So you're not paying for the wedding? Mom asked. Not curious, just loading the gun. The sentence didn't land like a question. It fell like a verdict. I looked up from my plate of rosemary chicken and roasted asparagus and blinked once. Across the table, her wine glass was raised midair like a prop in a photo shoot, and Logan sat beside her, nervously buttering a roll he wasn't going to eat. There was too much silverware on the table for this to be a regular Saturday dinner, and way too much theater. I wasn't aware that I was expected to, I said calmly. Oh, come on, Mom replied, smiling but not smiling. Don't be dramatic. That word, dramatic, had followed me since I was 12, ever since I cried when they forgot my birthday dinner. They made me blow out the candles on Logan's leftover cake 2 days later, and I'd still been grateful. That was the kind of daughter I was. Grateful for scraps. I'm not being dramatic, I said. I'm just confused how this discussion is already over before it started. Logan cleared his throat. It's just, we thought you understood how important this wedding is. How important it is for the family. There it was. The family. Capital F. I leaned back, letting my fork rest gently on the plate. You want me to pay for it? No. Mom interjected quickly. We're not saying that. We're just saying, given your situation. What situation? You're doing well, she said, tilting her head. You're stable, independent, and Logan and Brianna, well, they're just starting out. They don't have what you have. What do you think I have? There was a pause. The kind that stretches too long to be natural. Resources, Mom said finally. Security. And we assumed, maybe wrongly, that you would want to give back to your brother. After all, he's never asked you for anything. I almost laughed. Almost. But the weight in my chest wasn't light enough for laughter. No one asked when I paid for Dad's treatment, I said. No one offered to help when I maxed out 2 credit cards for his hospital bills. That's not fair, Mom snapped. That was a hard time for all of us. And who was there through all of it? I said, my voice steady. Logan? He went to Bali. For healing. He needed that retreat, she said coldly. You don't know how much he was hurting. I looked at Logan, who looked down at his plate like it had suddenly become fascinating. His shoulders slumped like a guilty schoolboy, but he didn't say a word. I'm not paying for the wedding, I said. That's my answer. The room shifted. The air, already tight, thickened. Mom set her wine glass down with a slow, deliberate click. You always do this, she said. You act like everything is transactional. Like love has a price tag. I didn't put a price tag on love, I said. You handed me a bill. Logan finally looked up, his face red. You don't have to make this ugly. It's already ugly, I replied. I just said no, I didn't throw a chair. Mom stood, napkin folded in half in her palm like it might bite. We thought you'd want to be part of this family again. But if you'd rather keep your distance, we'll respect that. Respect. That was rich. I didn't say anything else. I stood, took my coat from the back of the chair, and walked to the door. I didn't slam it, didn't curse, didn't flinch when I heard her hiss behind me. So ungrateful. Outside, the March air was crisp enough to sting. I sat in the car for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, letting silence replace the buzz in my head. My phone vibrated. Aunt Jeanette. Sweetheart, check the bank. I overheard something you won't like. My stomach dropped, not in shock, but in certainty, like a confirmation of something I'd already suspected. I opened the banking app, thumb scanning quickly to the joint account I shared with Mom, technically created to manage Dad's estate. Nothing had moved in months, until last week. A $10,000 transaction, Cedar Hall Resort, wedding venue deposit. Underneath, in fine gray text, authorized by Carol Grant. They didn't just ask. They took. Form 450-T, we freeze the account. But you have to decide when. Rachel slid the form across the table like it was nothing more than a lunch menu. But I saw it for what it was. Leverage. A silent, clinical severing of ties. Not a shout. Not a slap. Just a line drawn clean and cold. We sat across from each other in her compact office, tucked inside a low-rise building that smelled faintly of coffee and toner. A single desk lamp cast a pool of light between us, throwing soft shadows on the white walls. It was a paralegal firm, but Rachel ran it like a war room. Organized chaos, every folder armed with consequence. "This gives you the right to pause all withdrawals until the joint account dispute is resolved," she said, tapping the highlighted line. "But once you pull the trigger, there's no going back." I nodded, though I already knew. My fingers skimmed the top of the paper, feeling the raised texture of the watermark like a quiet kind of power. "I signed that account into existence to help settle Dad's affairs," I murmured. "I didn't realize I was handing over a blade." Rachel looked up from her notes. "You didn't. They just sharpened it behind your back." We fell silent for a beat, the kind of silence that wasn't empty but saturated, with memory, with names we didn't say out loud. She turned her laptop toward me. "Here's the part you should see." My bank statements blinked up on the screen. Line after line of routine, responsible, forgettable activity. Until one stood out. August 11th, 2021. A withdrawal of $4,800 labeled Transfer Estate Reserve. I hadn't made it. "That was around the time Dad's last medical invoice came through," I said slowly. Rachel clicked once, then pulled up a second document. "And this," she added, "is the check issued to Logan 3 days later. $4,700, memo line, seed fund." The world narrowed into a single point. I remembered that week. I'd skipped rent to cover a past-due hospice bill. Mom had said she was figuring things out. Apparently that meant handing my sacrifice to my brother and calling it fairness. "You okay?" Rachel asked. "Define okay." She half smiled. "Fair, south. You want to do this?" I stared down at the form again. Form 450-T. A freeze. Not revenge, not noise, just prevention. "They're planning to pull the rest of the wedding balance on the morning of June 16th, I said. "Cedar Hall invoices on the 16th, 8 a.m. Then we timestamp it for 7:59. Her voice was too calm, too measured, like we were scheduling a package pickup. Rachel began typing in the date. "Just to be clear, this will cause a scene, possibly one that gets filmed and uploaded." I leaned back in the chair, the exhaustion sitting in my spine like lead. "They made the first move in the dark. I'm just flipping on the light." "You'll need to sign twice," she said. "Here and here." I took the pen. It felt heavier than I expected. Outside, a car honked, distant and disinterested. The city kept moving. Rachel slid a yellow envelope toward me, already addressed, already stamped. "This gets dropped in person. We don't email. They don't get time to prepare." I signed. There was no cinematic music, no thunderclap, just ink soaking into paper. "Now," Rachel said, her tone softer. "What are you going to tell them?" "Nothing." "That's bold." "They never asked when they took," I said. "I'll return the favor." On the ride home, I didn't turn on the radio. I wanted silence, the hum of tires and the occasional click of the turn signal. In the passenger seat sat the sealed envelope, face up like it was watching me. When I got home, I didn't unpack. I walked straight into the bathroom, wiped the steam off the mirror, and picked up the dry erase marker I kept for reminders. A few weeks ago, it had read, "Call HR-10 a.m. Now I erased the old line and wrote something new. 8 a.m. Watch the fall. "Card's not going through," said the wedding planner. "Do you have another?" Logan blinked, confused, then glanced at Brianna, who clutched her bouquet tighter. The planner smiled with professional discomfort, like someone trained to manage chaos while wearing heels. Logan handed over another card, Mom's this time, and watched as the planner swiped it again. A small pause, a beep, another decline. A whisper rippled through the corridor like static. Behind the heavy oak doors, the string quartet paused, their instruments hovering midair as if waiting for instruction. Guests fidgeted in their seats. Phones were already discreetly out, some recording, others refreshing screens that hadn't loaded fast enough. Brianna's bridesmaids exchanged glances, eyes darting between the planner and the groom. "I don't understand," Logan muttered. "That account has funds." "It doesn't anymore," the planner replied, her voice dipping, her professionalism now slipping beneath the weight of the moment. "And we can't proceed without payment." "Can you give us a minute?" he said, trying to sound calm, but his voice cracked. "Just give us a second." They huddled in the foyer, just outside the ceremony hall. Mom pulled out her phone, scrolling frantically. "This is ridiculous. There must be a hold. Some technical issue. Natalie wouldn't..." But she didn't finish the sentence. Because she knew. And Logan knew. They all knew. I didn't answer when Mom called, or when she texted, or when she left me a voicemail that started with, "We need to talk," and ended with, "I hope you're proud of yourself." I sat on my couch, wrapped in a sweatshirt older than my career, sipping lukewarm coffee as the light filtered in through half-closed blinds. My phone was face down on the table, silent but vibrating like a heartbeat under pressure. I didn't pick it up. Not yet. Outside, my street was quiet. A family walked by with a stroller. Somewhere, a dog barked once and then stopped. I opened my laptop and refreshed my email. The bank confirmation was waiting. Transaction freeze validated. Account locked at 7:59:32 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, just under the wire. I allowed myself one small smile. Not of satisfaction, not of vengeance, but of finality. A cord had been cut, and no one had felt the blade until it was too late. Then the videos started. The first one showed the wedding arch tipping slightly in the wind, unattended as murmurs grew louder. The second showed Brianna walking down the aisle alone, then stopping halfway, looking back and whispering, "He's not here?" A third clip featured the wedding planner saying, not for the first time, "Unfortunately, without payment, the venue cannot provide," followed by someone off-camera shouting, "What kind of wedding is this?" But it was the fourth clip that went viral. A shaky handheld video of Mom arguing with the caterer, her voice rising, her hands gesturing wildly, demanding they bill her daughter instead. At some point, someone zoomed in on her face. The caption read, "Mother of the groom tries to pay with daughter's account. Gets declined. Gets denied. Gets desperate." Within 3 hours, it had 48,000 views. Another video showed the string quartet quietly packing up their instruments while the guests milled about, aimless and confused. One of the bridesmaids cried in a bathroom stall and posted a selfie with the caption, "Should have just eloped." Still, I didn't respond. I just watched. Then, while scrolling through the vendor's site, I saw something that made me stop. In red letters under their internal blacklist was a name I knew too well. Carol Grant, flagged for non-payment, multiple false deposits, and financial misrepresentation. I stared at it for a long time. My mother, who never paid late, who lectured me for being irresponsible with time and money, now marked as unreliable, as untrustworthy, as what she always assumed I was. A noise escaped me. Not a laugh. Just an exhale, half-weighted and long overdue. I opened my messages. Logan had sent another one. "You think you've won? You think this is over? You destroyed everything." I didn't reply. She didn't just ask. She took. "You humiliated us," Mom said. "No," I replied. "You did. I just turned on the lights." Her voice cracked through the voicemail like lacquer over a rotting surface. Smooth, practiced, but unable to hide the decay underneath. She said I was cruel, that I had betrayed my blood, that families forgive even when they falter. But I wasn't interested in forgiveness anymore. I was interested in boundaries. The rain whispered against the apartment windows, a steady, unhurried rhythm. It wasn't the kind of storm that demanded attention, just the kind that stayed, soaking in. I sat at the edge of my bed, phone in my lap, listening to her words like a song I had once known by heart, and now only recognized the beat of. "You always thought you were better than us," she said toward the end. "Maybe that's why you never belonged." I didn't delete the voicemail. I didn't even flinch. Instead, I replayed that single sentence. Not out of pain, out of clarity, because I finally agreed. A knock at the door broke the silence. I opened it to find Aunt Jeanette holding a rain-damp envelope and an expression that didn't try to mask the years between us. "I figured I'd come in person," she said, stepping inside without waiting. "Didn't want this to get lost in your inbox." She handed me the envelope. Inside was a photocopied ledger entry, dated March 2022. "Your mom borrowed $12,000 from me," she said, voice steady. "Said it was to help Logan finish his grad program. She said you'd co-signed on it. I called to confirm. She told me you were too busy to take the call." I stared at the numbers. "I didn't even know she asked you." Jeanette sat on the armrest of my couch, sighing. "I didn't think you did. But after that little wedding incident, I figured maybe it was time someone told you the math wasn't new." I nodded, swallowing something that wasn't surprise, just fatigue in a new suit. "They always knew you'd never fight dirty," she said gently. "That's why they thought they could get away with it." I opened my laptop. The document Rachel had prepared sat on my desktop like a sealed confession. Form 892-X, petition for financial disassociation and joint account removal. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was precise. I filled in the final signature line and digitally stamped the time, 11:32 a.m., June 17th. With a few clicks, I uploaded the document to the auditor's secure portal. The estate accounts, once so lovingly managed by my mother, were now under formal review. I didn't feel like celebrating. I felt clean. Later that afternoon, I pulled out the old photo box buried in the hallway closet. Not out of nostalgia, just to find one thing. It was the Christmas photo from 2003. Logan, front and center, beaming. Mom standing tall beside him. Me, barely visible. Half cut by the edge of the frame, only one shoulder and half a smile preserved. I remembered asking to retake the shot. I remembered the exact words she said. "Don't be difficult. It's not about you." I turned the photo face down and left it that way. My phone buzzed again. A new post from Logan. Just text on a black background. "Some people crave drama because peace never wanted them." I didn't share it. I didn't screenshot it. I didn't respond. Instead, I walked over to the kitchen counter where Rachel's envelope still sat unopened from the courier. Inside was a single-page confirmation from the bank. Freeze validated. Joint account closed pending audit. "You wanted my money. Now you can have my story." I typed the words slowly, deliberately, like an opening statement before a jury. The cursor blinked once, then again, as if waiting for me to backspace. But I didn't. The coffee shop was nearly empty. Just the barista rinsing glasses and a woman 2 tables over tapping her nails against a phone screen. Rain slid down the windows like a muted metronome, steady and indifferent. I liked that kind of weather. It didn't rush. It didn't hide. My laptop screen reflected faintly in the glass. One tab for Medium, another for screenshots. The post was already 3 pages long, and I wasn't halfway done. I didn't write about heartbreak. I wrote about transactions. I listed the first withdrawal, March 2020. $7,300 for emergency repairs. I had authorized it, trusting Mom's word. I was 27 and still believed that family didn't lie. At least not about numbers. I added the screenshot from 2021. The one where she transferred $4,800 to Logan without informing me, while I skipped rent to cover hospice costs. Then I included the latest. June 16th, 2024. The wedding deposit. $10,000 taken without permission. One line of text beneath the proof. They didn't just ask. They took. I paused, sipped my coffee, and scrolled back up. My tone wasn't angry. It wasn't bitter. It was tight as a legal brief and twice as sharp. Because that's what this was now. Not a tantrum. A testimony. Underneath, I typed, "There's a certain violence in being erased slowly. When people take and still call you selfish for saying no, when they use the word family like it's a receipt they can cash." I didn't tag them. I didn't name them directly. I let the evidence speak. The screenshots, the timestamps, the quiet weight of a life rebalanced. Rachel messaged halfway through. "Look surgical. Clean cut. Proud of you." I finished the post with a single sentence. "This isn't revenge. This is refusal." Then I hit publish. The first few hours were quiet. A few hearts, a few shares, a DM from someone saying, "This hit too close to home." Then came the thread. A Reddit user cross-linked my post under a topic titled, "Carol Grant, Fake Deposits." Another user replied, "Same woman tried to pay for my catering in 2022. Deposit bounced." Had to eat the loss. More comments followed, patterns, stories. It didn't explode. It spread. Like water through cracked stone. People weren't outraged. They were relieved. As if someone had finally said the thing they couldn't say out loud. My inbox pinged again. A message from a woman in Minnesota. "Thank you for writing this. You just helped me say no to my mother for the first time. The account is closed. The phone is silent. I am not waiting for either anymore. I wake to sunlight warming the floorboards, filtering through the slats like forgiveness. The apartment smells like lemon and eucalyptus, remnants from yesterday's deep clean. There's a stillness that doesn't ask for anything. It just is. On the kitchen counter, my phone sits face down. No new calls. No new apologies. And for once, that absence doesn't feel like an insult. It feels like space. I water the plants first, one by one, from the snake plant near the window to the row of succulents along the bookshelf. I talk to them sometimes. Not with words, just presence. A rhythm, a gesture, something alive that doesn't ask me to justify its existence. A cardboard box waits by the door. Inside, a stack of things I no longer need. A broken umbrella, a sweater from before the falling out. And the last photo frame. Christmas 2003. The one where my face is cut in half by the edge of the picture. I turn it over once more, just to be sure, then tuck it beneath the others. Let someone else find meaning in it. My laptop pings. A notification from Medium. Someone has commented on my story again. I click without hesitation now. No spike of adrenaline. No bracing. The comment is anonymous. It reads, "How did you make peace with letting go?" I stare at the question. My hands hover over the keyboard. But I don't type anything. Not because I don't have an answer, but because peace isn't a sentence. It's an action. Or maybe the absence of one. Instead, I slip on sandals and step outside. The street is warm beneath my feet. A neighbor's daughter is drawing crooked suns on the sidewalk in bright pink chalk. She waves. I wave back. I don't know her name, but she knows mine. Last week, she handed me a lopsided cookie and whispered, "You look like someone who wins quietly." I think that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. I walk to the porch and sit on the top step. There's no ceremony to it. No dramatic breath. Just stillness. A butterfly lands briefly on the railing before darting off again. The smell of someone's cooking drifts faintly on the breeze. I pull my knees to my chest, the wood warm beneath me, and rest my chin there. Mom's GoFundMe is gone. Deleted or taken down. I don't know which. Logan hasn't posted since June. The world didn't end. It just got quieter. I think about the question again. How did I make peace with letting go? I didn't. I simply stopped begging to be seen by people who had already closed their eyes. I stopped performing for approval I was never meant to earn. I never wanted revenge. I wanted air. And now, I finally breathe. I used to think silence meant defeat. That if I wasn't fighting, I must be retreating. That if I wasn't burning bridges, I was surrendering to whatever waited on the other side. But lately, the quiet feels like something else. Not absence, not avoidance. Just room. It's been 5 weeks since the wedding. That wasn't. 4 since I deleted the last voicemail from my mother. 3 since I boxed the final evidence of who they thought I was and left it at the donation center. Each action came without a press release. No announcement. No closure letter sealed with a red X. There's no medal for leaving a war no one admits you were drafted into. Still, some days I catch myself turning too fast, expecting backlash, bracing for the slam of a metaphorical door. But it never comes. No more weaponized birthdays, no more fake reunions, no more emails pretending to be olive branches when they're actually leash extensions. I thought freedom would feel like a rush, a crescendo. But it's gentler than that. Like learning to breathe underwater. And then something happened I didn't expect. The comment came on a Wednesday. I was sipping tea in my living room. The windows cracked open to let in the early August air. A breeze stirred the edge of the rug. The cat I never planned to adopt but somehow had now slept in a sunbeam by the bookshelf, her tail twitching. I checked my Medium inbox out of habit. New message from L.Grant97. I didn't open it at first. The name sat like a stone in my chest. Logan hadn't contacted me since the collapse. Not directly. He'd let Mom send the guilt, let social media send the spin. But now he was here. In my inbox, no voice filter, no buffer. I clicked. I'm not writing to apologize. I don't think you'd believe it if I did. But I'm trying. I didn't know half of what Mom did. The account. The withdrawal from Jeanette. The lies about the estate. She told me we were rebuilding. I thought we were. I thought you just didn't want to help. But now I see it was never about help. It was about ownership. She needed to own you to love you. I'm not proud of what I let happen. I just wanted to say I saw the story, not the comments. Yours. I read it twice. You didn't sound angry. You sounded free. I envy that. Logan, I didn't reply. Not right away. Maybe not ever. But I read the message 3 times. I even printed it out, not because I planned to frame it, but because I needed to touch the words, to prove they weren't imagined. And then I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I picked up the phone. Not to call, just to scroll. I pulled up the old family photos I'd stored away in a hidden folder. The ones with matching Christmas sweaters and fake laughter. The ones with me on the edge of every frame, half cut, half lit, always an afterthought. Then I kept scrolling and found another photo. Me and Aunt Jeanette. I was maybe 9. We were in a park sitting on a bench with melting popsicles. I had a bandage on one knee and she had lipstick on her teeth. But we were laughing. Hard. Like nothing else mattered. It was the first photo where I was centered. I texted her. You still eat grape popsicles? She replied in 5 seconds. Only on days that end in Y. We met that weekend. She brought the grape popsicles, I brought a bag of lawn chairs, and we sat in the park like no time had passed. You know, she said, adjusting her sun hat, your mom used to say you were too intense, that you asked too many questions, that you made everything harder. I let out a slow breath. She wasn't wrong. Jeanette smiled. Number. But that's not a flaw. It's just inconvenient. For people who want you small. We watched a group of teenagers tossing a frisbee. The sun dipped low over the trees, casting long gold shadows. I licked a drop of purple off my thumb and laughed. I used to think being cut off meant being alone, I said. And now? She asked. Now I think it means being able to choose who gets in. She nodded like she'd been waiting years for me to say it. I'm working on something, I added. Not another article. Something real. A fund. For women who get pushed into caretaking roles and never get to build anything for themselves. I've got Rachel helping me with the legal side. Jeanette sat up straighter. You're building a future from the ashes. No, I said. I'm building one from the ground. She grinned. Even better. The cat greeted me at the door that evening, meowing like I'd missed her entire adolescence. I scratched behind her ears and poured her dinner, then sat on the floor beside her as she ate. No walls felt like they were closing in. No old photos waited to ambush me. No notifications vibrated with dread. Just home. Quiet. Chosen. That night, I reopened the comment from weeks ago. The one that had asked, how did you make peace with letting go? I still hadn't answered it, but this time I typed something back. I stopped chasing what hurt. I stopped waiting to be invited in, and I started building my own door. Then I hit reply and let it go. They silenced her for years with obligations, guilt, and quiet theft, until she learned that peace doesn't come from obedience, but from boundaries. Natalie didn't scream, didn't beg. She documented, exposed, and walked away with her dignity intact. Like the final chord of a long-forgotten melody, justice may arrive late, but it resonates powerfully once it's heard. Sometimes, choosing yourself means being labeled the villain in someone else's script, and that's still a win. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful narratives of justice and reclaiming your voice.